Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. For those who don't know me, I'm Chris and I'm a dermatology trainee based in the west of Scotland in the UK. On my channel, I share my experiences working and living in the UK as well as my dermatology training in general. And in this video, I'm going to answer some of your questions that you've posted online. Thank you so much for submitting them. And what better way to answer these questions by eating some cheese? So I have got Red Leicester cheese, which is made in Devon, and it says that it's going to be smooth and mellow. You can't go wrong with a Red Leicester. Ayrshire cheese, I used to work in Ayrshire. Again, it's mild and smooth, so that's quite nice. And then we have truffle Gouda. I think it's pronounced as Gouda when I looked online, but I call it Gouda, so correct me if I'm wrong. It says it's crafted in the Netherlands with black truffle, and it's going to be smooth and creamy according to its taste. And this is one of my favorites, which is Blue Stilton cheese. It's like a love-hate relationship. It's very creamy, but it's got this aftertaste. You either like it or you don't. And then, I think I've got too many cheeses. We've got the habanero chili cheddar, and this is from Sainsbury's and it's limited edition. So I recently chanced upon it in Sainsbury's, and it's essentially cheddar cheese blended with habanero, sweet chili jam, and peri-peri seasoning. So you can imagine it's gonna be quite spicy. And so now I'm going to start cutting them up and gonna do a quick transition right now. Oh, not to forget, I have also bought myself some camembert cheese, which is just baked in the oven for the past 25 minutes. So it's really hot and creamy. I've got this non-alcoholic beverage, rose lemonade. I've not tried it before. It is nice and chilled. I put it in the freezer just so that it can get cold very quickly. Ooh. I mean, it doesn't smell like anything, but I'm sure it will taste really delicious. Ooh. It's not very liquidy. It's actually quite like jelly-like. I think it might be semi-frozen. Now let me start by answering some of your questions. So the first question is, how difficult is it to get into dermatology? So it really depends on what you make of the application itself. So in terms of competition ratio in 2023, which was last year, the competition ratio was around 7.5 applicants to one job, and for round one, and then it's around 5.5 competition ratio for round two. And in 2022, if you look at the website, it was around 5.6 for round one and 6.4 in 2021. So it roughly goes between 5 to 7 essentially for each year for round one. The reason why this is so is because dermatology is quite an attractive specialty. It not only gives you job satisfaction, but it also provides a good work-life balance because it's mainly outpatient based. You don't do a lot of on-calls, and you just really do a 9-to-5 job essentially. It's so nice. Now, I don't think you should just look at the competition ratio before deciding if you want to apply to dermatology, because competition ratio actually varies from year to year. For example, for the internal medical training, in the past it used to be called core medical training, and that's how old I am. And when it was my year, in 2018, when I applied for CMT, now called IMT, the competition ratio was around 1.5 to 1 job. But now, I think in 2024, this year, the competition ratio was around 3.69. And no one actually thought this would happen because in the past when I applied, nobody really wanted to apply. People were leaving the NHS to go to greener pastures like Australia and New Zealand, where they pay you well and you get a good job satisfaction with a good work-life balance. Medical training at that time was thought to be not as attractive because you have to do medical on-calls, and sometimes you need to step up to be a medical registrar in more rural or district areas. And so it wasn't a very competitive specialty at that time. But looked at how things have changed post-Brexit. With post-Brexit, there is no more labour market test for all medical jobs. And this essentially means that trainees or international medical doctors who want to apply to the UK now stand on the same footing as other UK graduates. And so this puts on pressure on existing UK graduates. And this is why the competition ratio has gone up. But don't let this competition ratio deter you from applying to dermatology, because as long as you have the passion for dermatology, it doesn't really matter how long it takes you to get into dermatology training, but you will get there eventually. As long as you put in the effort, keep applying, and persevere and be persistent. Applying for a dermatology job is not impossible. It's not like flying to the moon or going to Antarctica. It's actually doable as long as you have a vision, you have a plan in front of you, and you work towards the goal. Ooh, camembert. Wow. Next question. If one is passionate about dermatology, is it worthwhile in the end? Yes, definitely it is worthwhile if you are truly passionate about dermatology. So for me, I can't really think of doing anything else other than dermatology because I really get the job satisfaction when doing dermatology, seeing patients with skin conditions. And in fact, compared to my other jobs, not just in medicine, but also in surgery, where I have to do ward rounds, go into theaters, dermatology feels like it's not just a job, it feels very rewarding to me, and I do get the job satisfaction when I see my patient's skin improve, and sometimes they send me cards or chocolates as a thank you. That really warms my heart. At the start, I was thinking of doing either GP or geriatric medicine, which is care of the elderly. And the reason why I wanted to do one of those two specialties was because I really loved the job when I did the 2 rotations as a foundation year trainee. I liked the GP placement because it allowed me to sort of interact with my patients on a more frequent basis, building a relationship. And for geriatric medicine, I really just like interacting with older folks and listening to their stories and getting insights from, their life experiences. Ultimately, I chose to do dermatology because it included both traits of the 2 specialties. Dermatology is primarily an outpatient-based specialty, so if you are dealing with patients with chronic skin conditions, you do see them on a very frequent basis for a long time, and you can actually build a relationship with these patients. And at the same time, when you practice dermatology, you not only deal with young people, children, but also older people as well. And at the same time, dermatology provides a good work-life balance. You can do both medicine and surgery in dermatology, and it's just simply the best of both worlds. It is also a rapidly expanding specialty because there is a lot of research and money put in to investigate on new treatments for patients with skin disorders like psoriasis and eczema. So we have things like the biologics coming into play, JAK inhibitors. So it's really a very good specialty to work in right now. And so gone are the days where people were admitted to the hospital for coal tar treatment for their skin psoriasis, where it was not only uncomfortable for this patient, time-consuming, and also really smelly as well. Next question. How does one balance between work and personal life? Well, I think it's very difficult. I struggle all the time, and I feel like I'm running out of time most weekends. Even when you get into dermatology training as a trainee, and when you've finished your training as a consultant, there are still many things for you to do and roles and responsibilities that you need to take on as you get more senior in training. For me, I realized very quickly that as I advance through my dermatology training, I not only have to manage patients independently in clinics and on calls, but also I need to oversee some of my junior colleagues, be it my junior doctors or nurse specialists who might be doing clinics alongside me. And they may have questions about on-call patients or clinic patients that they see themselves. And for myself, as you can see, I do YouTube videos. And so this would include scripting, coming up with ideas, filming, and sometimes editing as well. And they all take up a lot of time. I think if you're not careful, there is a chance that you might feel burnt out and you might feel overwhelmed, and then you lose that passion in the long run. And this has certainly happened to me multiple times over the past few years. I realized that one good tip I gave myself is to have a clear delineation between work and play. When it's time to work, focus and give your all to actually producing the product. Do one thing at a time, try not to multitask. But then when it's time to switch off, make sure that you are properly switched off. Stop emailing, stop looking at your phone, just give your 100% into spending time with your loved ones or doing something that is not, work related. Strong smell. Let's get some chutney. Right, next question. Is earning potential good if one doesn't want to pursue cosmetic side, etc.? I think being a consultant in the UK doesn't really pay you as much as, say, being a specialist in other countries because we work for the NHS. And so, if I'm not mistaken, looking at the BMA website, the starting pay for a consultant in England is around £90,000 pre-tax, but this will increase depending on the number of years you accumulate as a consultant. Certainly, you get paid a lot more if you work in other countries with private healthcare. So I know of people or friends who work in Australia or New Zealand, and they get paid a lot more, maybe sometimes even double the amount that you might get paid in the NHS. But ultimately have to think about whether it's worth working in that environment, because you attract a different demographic of patients if you work in a private healthcare sector. As a consultant in the UK, you can always supplement your income by working locum shifts for your trust, for other trusts around you. You can also join a private healthcare company, which a lot of my consultant colleagues have done. It doesn't mean that you need to practice cosmetic dermatology, so you don't need to do Botox and fillers, and you can still do what you do on a day-to-day basis as an NHS consultant, but in a private sector. So yeah, even though it doesn't pay as well working for the NHS as a specialist, but you can supplement your income by various ways. So next question. Which training route is better, medicine or surgery? Brackets, don't like peds, brackets. So it really depends on what you like, your preferences really. There is no hard or fast rule, and there is no right answer to this question. I know of both really good medical and surgical dermatologists who are passionate and are skilled in their own area. And once you subspecialize, you get more focused and actually you get more interested because you become the expert in that subspecialty. And so for medical dermatology, there is great advancement in therapeutics, such as biologics and JAK inhibitors. And in fact, over the past 5 years, there has been a great explosion in the number of biological treatments and even JAK inhibitors we offer for our patients with medical dermatoses. And for surgery, we have Mohs micrographic surgery, which is primarily done by dermatologists themselves. What's great about Mohs surgery is the fact that you can see and treat right from the beginning when the patients walk into your clinic room to you taking the lesion out, interpreting the histology slides, and then explaining the diagnosis and treatment plan to the patient. So essentially, you're a sort of a one-man show, which I quite like because it gives you a lot of autonomy in making decisions for your patients. I would say if you are starting out as a new dermatology trainee, be open-minded, join as many subspecialty clinics as you can, because your preferences might change over time. Things that you read beforehand in books or in the literature might be actually quite different when you actually practice and see patients in real life. So important tip is don't make a decision yet because you have a lot of time to think about it. Can we do less than full-time in dermatology? Yes, you can. A lot of people do less than full-time anyways in dermatology because it is a predominantly outpatient-based specialty. Is there an option to match in a city where your husband is? Well, again, it depends on your situation. What does your husband work as? Where do you live? Is the training area where your husband is a competitive area to get in? Of course, before you get into dermatology training in the UK, after the interviews and you've been shortlisted, you can rank the places according to your preferences. And you can also reject an offer that has been given out to you if you find that you don't want to move to that particular area for any reason. What part of dermatology do you enjoy most? Definitely patient interaction. I cannot see myself working isolated in a dark room with no patient interaction because it would just drive me insane and bored. So I really like interacting with my patients. I really like dealing with older people. I also like seeing how my patient's skin and mental health improve over time with treatments. That really gives me a sense of satisfaction when I see my patients smile and their gratitude when they get the right treatment that they need. So next, what part of dermatology do you enjoy the least? This is actually an interesting one, and I'm not sure whether people would agree. This is essentially based on my own personal opinion. I sometimes find that dermatology is always thought as an afterthought with other more bigger and acute specialties. And this is because we are generally not involved in the acute medical take, so we don't have a lot of presence in the actual hospital. And we probably also are pretty useless in treating life-threatening conditions like strokes, heart attacks, so on and so forth. But what we can do as dermatologists in the hospital on the wards is to help provide a sort of unique perspective by looking from the skin point of view and try to find unifying diagnosis that would combine both skin and as well as any underlying conditions together. We can also help to do a skin biopsy at times, which is less invasive than, say, taking a biopsy from the kidneys, the lymph glands, or the bone marrow. So I really hope that people will treat dermatology as a proper specialty, because we do and can offer some insights from our point of view, and we can help with clinching the diagnosis by way of a skin biopsy at times. And the other thing is, when we do advise on topical treatments, please put the treatments on, order the creams and ointments that we want, because these are part of the patient's medication, and it's the same as any tablet or injection because they are all treatments. What are some realities about dermatology people don't know about? Well, for the general public, perhaps they might think that being a dermatologist is quite a cushy job. We inject Botox and fillers, we look great, we care about skin health, and we just want to look attractive and beautiful. But this is actually a small subset of what we can do in dermatology, because in the NHS in the UK, we deal with medical dermatology, surgical dermatology. So we not only see patients with rashes from eczema, psoriasis, blistering conditions, genetic skin conditions, we also manage and treat skin lesions, both benign and malignant. So this would include skin cancers. Dermatology is also quite a fast-paced specialty. In fact, it is one of the, if not the most busiest specialty out of all medical specialties. This is because we often see a lot of patients in our clinics, and we can easily see over 50 patients in a day. The other thing to note is that there's a lot of admin involved in dermatology. It's not just, you see the patients and then you leave, but you also need to do background reading, you need to send letters, sign off letters, action results, especially if they're abnormal. Sometimes patients call, then you need to sort of deal with that by speaking with them over the phone, and there may be GP queries, so you need to answer that as well. Or you might be involved in on-call, and so you might get referred both by the GPs and other specialties about patients that they see. There's a lot of things involved in dermatology, and it doesn't just include seeing patients in clinic. There are clear bumps on my face. What could they be? Can they be warts? Well, actually, they can be anything. Warts are common, but you can also get a fleshy mole. You can also get a spot from rosacea or acne, skin malignancies or benign skin lesions. You can get seborrheic warts, not just viral warts. So yeah, it can be anything really. Your skin is so clear. What's your skincare routine? Well, first of all, thank you very much for complimenting my skin. I don't have clear, good skin. If you see me in person, you will know that I have acne scarring from nodular cystic acne, and that recently I finished a course of Roaccutane because of my recalcitrant severe acne. Videos oftentimes can be quite deceiving because there's always a filter on, the lighting can be different, and so yeah, my skin is far from clear. But I try to, improve my skin health by using active ingredients, and that's something that I always advise both my friends and my patients to do, because there are a lot of promotions out there from big brands with their creams which do not have any active ingredients to help your skin needs. So look for the ingredients rather than the actual brands of the creams. For me, because I have acne-prone skin, I try to use active ingredients with things like salicylic acid in my facial wash. I use a thick moisturizer because I combine it with adapalene, which is a topical retinoid at night. And yeah, just to keep things simple. Have you or would you consider doing cosmetic procedures. I haven't had any cosmetic procedures done on myself, and I've not done any cosmetic procedures on anyone. Whether I will be open to doing these procedures in the future, yeah, why not? I think as dermatologists, we are in the best position, really, because we are supposed to be the experts for skin. And so even if you don't practice, doing lasers and chemical peels, for example, I think it's good to have an idea of how to do it so that if there are complications, you know how to deal with them. And actually, I think if you're able to do all these cosmetic procedures, they can actually help in the long run because you can actually combine treatments to help improve your patient's skin. So for example, if patient has rhinophyma, which is where you get this huge bulky nose from rosacea, medical treatments like oral antibiotics and even Roaccutane will not really touch it because ultimately you either need surgery or carbon dioxide laser. And so being able to perform these procedures can actually make a huge difference in patient's skin and ultimately impact on their self-esteem and confidence. The next question is quite long. Not sure if you have already talked about this in your other videos, but what was medical school experience for you? Were you actively joining derm-related stuff, or did that passion come about later on in your FY years? What advice would you give aspiring derms who have absolutely no connections in the UK? Random question, what do you miss most about living in SEA, Southeast Asia? That's a very good question. I had a really difficult time in my medical school. I actually failed my medical school exam in my third year. I came from what we call a partner medical school back in Malaysia. So I went to the UK in my third year, and maybe because it's a new environment, a new system, new curriculum, I wasn't sure how to study for it, and I just completely flunked my medical exam. And that was rather depressing, and it was a really difficult time for me. So dermatology actually took a step back. I've always wanted to do dermatology since medical school, but I really didn't do much in terms of my CV in medical school because I was just struggling to pass the medical school exam. My study technique was completely wrong as well. Instead of doing questions, I was reading textbooks page by page, trying to memorize it by reading line by line and highlighting it, which is completely a waste of time. I only started to do dermatology related stuff when I was a foundation year trainee, where I did a few case reports. I reached out to the dermatology team where I was training, and then when after CMT I applied to get a dermatology fellow job, which fortunately I was given the opportunity to do so. But in my FY and CMT or IMT now, I didn't have any dermatology posts. So I guess a good tip would be to contact your local dermatology team, reach out to your society, join the DermSoc, join the BAD, look out for any opportunities to present, for any sort of prizes and awards that you can participate to get, because all these things do add up to give you points for your CV. In terms of what I miss for Southeast Asia, definitely my family, the food and the weather. The UK weather, as you can imagine if you've not lived in the UK, can be quite cold at times, especially during winter where the days are short and the nights are long. And where I live in sunny Scotland, as I always like to joke, it's not really sunny and it's not very warm. And so I do miss the heat and humidity back in Singapore and Malaysia. I also miss spending quality time with my family members, because with me living in the UK, I can't really just fly back home as and when I want. So I do miss major events in the family. I'm so glad that we are, finally getting to the last question. What does part-time training in dermatology look like? Can you do 50% training? Yes, you can. So 50% training is the minimum that you can do for less than full-time training. You don't need to have kids or any dependent that you need to look after to provide a valid reason. You can apply for less than full-time training for things like mental health and, having a break essentially. And both men and women can apply as well. It really depends on your local policy. So reach out early, let your program director know early in advance so that they can start making plans for you to go less than full-time. Some of the, disadvantages with less than full-time would be, number one, you get a pay cut, and that can be quite substantial, especially if you don't get a lot of pay in the first instance. There may be a delay in you finishing your training, and sometimes if you are thinking of applying for fellowships after you finish your dermatology training, that might not fit quite well when you finish, because you might be finishing at a very awkward time when the deadline for fellowships have just passed, for example. And then lastly, they may sometimes cause a day-to-day disruption in your own clinical training and learning. So for example, if you do less than full time, you do like say 50%, it means that 50% of the time you are not actually in the department. And so when there are any on-call issues or GP referrals, it's often hard for you to be on site to see these patients and see if your treatments for these patients help improve their skin, because by seeing more, you actually learn. And if you're not there to see and learn, then there may be, a bit of delay in your training, but ultimately, you will get there eventually. So it really depends on what you want. Doing less than full time, some people really need that break. Some people have, children to look after and they can't afford to do it full time. Just see what you think is best for your life situation, because no one is the same. Okay, so I think I have managed to answer all 15 questions that you guys have given me. And so yeah, keep them coming. I really do try to look at all your comments and feedback. And even if I manage to help just one person through this Q&A video, I will be a very happy person. And so ultimately, if you are truly passionate about dermatology, please don't give up on yourself. Just keep trying. If you want to find out more about other training pathways out there in the UK for dermatology, please check out this video in the description box down below, or actually you can click over here or here. If you like this video, please let me know what else you would like me to make, and I will hopefully do that next time. Thank you for watching once again, and see you later. Bye.